I wanted to show you another quilt. Notice in these quilts, this one of my favorites, Silver Mist, and it has these big chrysanthemum type English paper pieced flowers. I had some left over when I finished the quilt. There was no other space, or I didn't have enough space, so I decided, well, you could take 5 of these and have them be a little flower type petal. If you put a little, or flower thing, if you put a little green circle with them. And I thought, oh, I will just have them like dropping down out of the sky. That was my thought. And then I wanted to have these, these strips, bricks, whatever, going down in different colors too. This quilt I really enjoyed making. It was very fun to make. The background is different whites and tans, and it's a quilt where I began with a white block, and then after I did one block I thought, oh, I think I need to change it up a little bit and do some of the strips behind the applique, do some in a darker fabric. And so there's a variation of colors in the background. I think it really makes the quilt. These guys are just different strips, but I wanted them to be, I wanted them to go in a definite way, like from dark down to light. This block goes from light to dark in the opposite direction. And that goes on in each of these. So there were 4 different blocks that I needed to lay out to keep track of how I'm sewing my strips together. And I called the blocks, in order to keep them different from one another, I called one Bob, one Carol, one Ted, one Alice. I thought later, I don't know, I think that might be dating me, because that's an older movie. I don't even remember too much about it, but I remembered those 4 names. So that's how I kept track of my way going down. We quilters do some crazy things sometimes. Anyway, I had this quilt at a quilt guild after I had it made, and I didn't have a name for it, but I said, these look like flowers falling down, and everyone said, oh, no, those aren't flowers, those are badminton birdies. So now the name for the quilt is called Badminton Anyone. I also, on this quilt, used a little big rickrack. Well, I used some big rickrack to go around the edge. I think that, for me, that's an extra decoration that makes the quilt just a little bit better. When I'm adding rickrack to a quilt, I do it with my sewing machine. When I'm doing this kind of thing on my sewing machine, when I'm attaching rickrack, I do it as if I'm doing free motion quilting. I put my free motion foot on, not the one that's shaped like a U, but the one that has a full circle, because I don't want it to get caught on these pieces of rickrack. And then put the feed dogs down and just gently follow along on each side of the rickrack. You need to do both sides because you don't want it to kind of flip up on the edges. Anyway, I think it makes the quilt just a tad bit better, and I like it. So this is Badminton Anyone. It's a nice scrappy type quilt.